In this video, we're going to explore another popular SIEM solution called Datadog. Datadog is slightly different from the previous SIEMs we have covered here and in my blog because it's the only one that is a SaaS-only solution, meaning that we can't self-host the solution as we did with Wazuh, Splunk, and the Elk stack. To make this even more interesting, I'm going to show you how we can ingest log data from a firewall. In this case, one of my personal favorites, Zenarmor's next generation firewall running on OpenSense. So let's jump into the configuration. Before we continue, I would like to say thanks to this video's sponsor, Zenarmor. If you're looking for a powerful next generation firewall to run on top of your OpenSense firewall or most other popular Linux distributions for that matter, I've included a playlist and a sign up link in the description showcasing Zenarmor and how it can be used to make a drastic improvement to your overall network security posture. They have various pricing tiers ranging from free to enterprise, as well as a 15-day business edition trial, so everyone can have access to this great solution. Go check them out. For this guide, I assume that you already have an account with Datadog. If not, it's straightforward to set one up. Head over to their site and sign up for a 14-day trial, and so you can follow along. Because Datadog is a SaaS solution, there's no long-winded process of setting up your own servers and infrastructure. We are simply going to be streaming our SYSLOG data to Datadog via the internet, and all the configurations that you'll see in this guide are done using their dashboard. Before we stream any log data to Datadog, I like to set up a unique index for each set of log data to create separation between what is collected. This will help later on when we need to query this data and create visuals or dashboards and so on. To set up the index for Zenarmor specific logs, you're going to head over to your menu on the left and then to logs and configuration, and right at the top you'll see we have a indexes option. You'll notice that if this is a fresh instance of Datadog, there will only be the main index in this particular list of indexes. For this tutorial, we're going to create a ZenCons index to store our Zenarmor specific data. So to do that, you'll simply click on new index and you'll supply all the information that it needs here, such as its name, a filter that you want to use. In this case, our filter is going to be source.zenarmor. And for the index retention, we can just leave this as default to 15 days. Just to see what the complete one's going to look like, we can check the one that I created earlier. Its name is ZenCons, the source is Zenarmor, and the retention is as is. Before we move on to the next step, you're going to want to have your Datadog API key nearby. To find it, you're going to go to your organization menu, which is at the bottom, and you're going to then look for API keys, and you'll see inside here, you'll have a API key already created for you. You simply just want to copy this API key and keep it on hand. For this guide, I chose to use RSyslog as my syslog collector because it's well documented and came pre-installed on the Ubuntu 20.204 server I have running in the lab. Datadog also conveniently supports it. If you'd like to explore an alternative, you can also use syslog NG, which is also supported by Datadog, and you should get similar results. The first step in setting up RSyslog is to activate the built-in module that allows it to listen on UDP port 514, where we will be streaming our syslog data to from Zenarmor. To do this, we need to modify the rsyslog.config, as you can see on the screen, by adding the below configuration. I've included comments for each line to explain what it does. But the first thing that we need to add is we need to provide UDP syslog reception. So to do that, we need to include this module and we need to tell it that it needs to listen on port 514. And then I've created just below that a filter. Then so we can filter connections coming from 192.168.1.1, which is my OpenSense firewall running Zenarmor. And then it takes that information and it stores it in var log zen_con.log. If you wish to use TCP instead of UDP on port 514, there's also a TCP module. I've included it in the config. I've commented it out. You can enable that if that's something that you're after. Another module that I just want to bring to your attention as part of this configuration is the IM file module. This particular module basically allows us to poll that file, the zen_cons log file, where all the syslog data will be stored coming from Zenarmor. So RSyslog will poll that file every 10 seconds, which then you'll see in the next step when we set up the Datadog configuration. It will allow that to poll every 10 seconds, allowing that new updated data to be streamed out to Datadog. I will include this complete configuration file in my blog, so please do check that out if you just want to copy paste and use my configuration. The second part of this process is to create a Datadog specific config file that allows RSyslog to establish communication with the Datadog service without using an agent. Before we do this, we need to install the TLS package to encrypt the log data traversing the internet. While this is not necessarily compulsory, it is advised to prevent any third party from listening in on your log data. Simply, you're going to be using the command as I have it on the screen, and this will install the TLS packages. I will include all these commands in a blog post, so it'll be as easy as possible for you to copy it if you want to follow along. Once your TLS modules have been installed, you're going to need to create a .conf file in etc/rsyslog.d. I called mine datadog.conf and I populated it with the config like you see on the screen. I've commented everything for your convenience as well, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to first look at that input file, that IM file module that we spoke about in the previous step, and we are going to give it a tag of Zenarmor NGFW, next gen firewall, and we're going to point it to that zen_cons log file that we created in the previous step where all the syslog data is being stored and streamed to. Then what we need to do is we just need to tell this config where it can find all the CA certificates. That's what we set up in the previous step when we installed the TLS module. And then we need to format and set up how the logs are going to be sent to Datadog. So to do this, we are going to provide our API key, which is this long key over here. I've masked it so that you guys don't use mine, and we're going to just tell it how to format it with the timestamp and so on, the host name, the app name, and then the message that it needs to send. This dd source equals is just basically going to be creating a source tag for Datadog to use. We'll see that later on when we interact with Datadog in the dashboard. And then the final bit of this configuration is just the rule set that I've created, where we have an action where it basically tells it that it just needs to forward using TCP, and the target, this is intake.logs.datadoghq.com on port 10516, which is the default port and intake endpoint for the region that I set up, which is the US. This particular target could change depending on where you are located in the world. All this information will be available in Datadog's documentation. And then the rest of this is basically just telling it which template we need to use. So in this case, it's the template that we created above called Datadog format. And the stream driver we're going to be using is this GTLS. And that's pretty much everything that we need to do. Once you're done with those two configuration files, you're going to need to restart your entire RSyslog instance or service. So you're simply just going to type in, like I've included on the screen over here. Okay, so the next part of the setup is we need to allow Zenarmor to stream syslog data to our RSyslog server. So to do that, you're going to head over to your Zenarmor dashboard. In this case, I'm using OpenSense, and you'll head over to settings and then to data management. And inside here, you're simply just going to point the syslog server IP address to 192.168.1.108, which is where my RSyslog server is running and listening on port 514 over UDP. And in this case, we are just going to stream all connection data through to RSyslog. You can also separate this by web, DNS, TLS, and alerts if you wish to do that. But just for the sake of this guide, we want to send all of our data there. And once that's done, you'll simply click update. And if all went well, then Zenarmor will start streaming its log data and its reporting data through to your RSyslog server. So if all went well with the previous steps, you should start seeing data after a few minutes beginning to stream into your Datadog instance and dashboard. To view this, you simply go to logs and either to search, or you can go to the live tail view like I have currently at the moment. And you'll see in LiveTail, this shows every little bit of data that is coming from Zenarmor and from RSyslog listing into Datadog. So if we select one of them, I just want to quickly show you this is what it looks like when we drill down into it. So we can see the host, it comes from RSyslog Datadog. The service, we've called it Zenarmor Next Gen Firewall, as we set up in our RSyslog Datadog config. And then once again, the source, like I also explained in the datadog.conf config, that's the source that we've created. And this is just a view of what the message looks like, or the log looks like from Zenarmor. At the moment, though, you will note that when we select it and we view it like this, none of the important data which we can see over here has been extracted below. So we've just got the app name and the host name and all these kind of things. All the important data is still stuck inside this particular JSON formatted bit of the message. Now, this is not obviously ideal, because we need to be able to have these bits of data that Zenarmor returns listed as attributes below, or event attributes as Datadog calls it. And we need a means of extracting this data. So to fix this, we need to build a custom Datadog pipeline that allows us to filter the data by running it through a parsing processor. And then it will extract each one of these pieces of data that Zenarmor returns, or that Zenarmor sends us, and it will assign it to its own attribute that we can then later on down the line use to query this data or set up visuals or dashboards and things like that, which we're going to cover in the next step. So to build the pipeline, we are going to head over to logs and to configuration. And you'll see it's the first tab that becomes available to you. It's called Pipelines. And just below that, we will create our first pipeline. So to create a pipeline, you're just simply going to click on this add pipeline or new pipeline, and you will be presented with a very straightforward form to fill in. So we are going to be filtering this particular pipeline by the source, and then we are going to then tell it that the facet is Zenarmor. And you'll just see in this preview window over here, it'll start already filtering that data as it's coming in live. Then you can give it any name that you want. I called mine ZenPipe, and any tags and a description if you wish. And then you simply create the pipeline and it'll be ready to run. I've already done this, so my pipeline is over here and created. You can click on this to edit it and you'll see it follows that same setup as I described previously. Now that our pipeline is set up and filtering for syslog data originating from Zenarmor, we now need to add a processor to the pipeline to help extract the individual attributes that we are after. So to do this, you're going to once again be using the pipelines menu option, and you're going to then add a processor to this. So you'll simply click on add processor, and you will see it gives you a whole lot of different processor types. The one that we're going to use for this particular guide is a grok parser. You will then give your grok parser a name, and you will supply it with a log sample. So you can simply copy from the already collected SYSLog data that we have from Zenarmor that we saw in the live tail. You can simply go back there, copy the sample of the log in there, or you can click on parse my logs and it will try and extract it for you. However, this is not exactly what we want, so I would avoid using that step. And then just to show you what a completed grok parser looks like with an explanation, you'll see that here's a snippet of the syslog message that we are trying to match on. We can remove that one. And then what we need to do is we need to define the parsing rules for this to work. So the parsing rule in this case is pretty straightforward. But just ignore the commented line above. That was just me busy testing something. But the one that we're interested in, we've given the rule name to this rule as JSON_extract. And then we've used the grok pattern for date to match this date pattern that we see in our log sample. And we've called that particular attribute date. And then just to filter out everything else that lies between data, which is all this opensense.local domain Zenarmor. This information is not really important to us at this stage. I've just used the .star, which is like a wildcard kind of mask. It basically just matches any character or space up until a particular point. In this case, we are wanting to exclude everything after the timestamp and just before date. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use one of Datadog's built-in pattern matching for JSON type content. So after data, this is formatted, all this data coming from Zenarmor is formatted with key value pairs in a JSON format. We want to extract that data and use it in our attributes. So to do that, we're going to use their data matcher, and we're going to essentially, that's the first line over here is the data matcher. We're then going to give it a name of data, and then this final JSON filter at the end is basically a filter. So what it's going to do is it's going to then match properly formatted JSON, like in the case of what Zenarmor returns. And if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see that JSON extract, the rule that we created here, has then matched and extracted all of that data that we're after, and then it's created the unique attributes and key value pairs for us. So here's everything within data. There's the date that it firstly captured, and then inside data, you can see that we have everything listed nicely and ready to use. So we've got our destination host name, our IP destination port, VLAN IDs, time zones, all this very useful information that is returned from Zenarmor is now available for us to use within Datadog to do whatever we like with, query it, create dashboards, etc. So once you're happy with your parser, you'll simply click create or update, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so the final step is we now want to test to make sure that that pipeline that we set up and that the processor is actually working correctly and busy extracting data. So to do that, we're going to once again go to logs, and we can then simply go to our live tail again. Just give it a minute and you will see that data will start to stream through. And then we'll just select one that we're interested in. Let's do this one. And now you'll notice major difference in comparison to the previous unfiltered data. You'll see that all the event attributes that's returned from Zenarmor have now been nicely extracted, and all these facets or attributes, as Datadog calls them, can now be queried and searched. So just going through here, you can see we've got like a bit of data here. This is web browsing. the protocol that it used, the direction of the traffic, which client it came from. In this case, it was a Linux-based client, its destination and its source. And we've even got information here about where the source and destination geographical locations are, and so on. All this data is now ready for you to use to create dashboards, to query, to create monitoring rules around where you can set up alerts. So for example, one way you could use this with Zenarmor is you could look at this particular field here where it says is blocked. If it's blocked, it'll always return a 1. If it's not blocked, it'll obviously be a 0. So you could create a monitoring rule around this where you can check for this is blocked pattern as 1. And then you will see in the data returned, it's not going to show it now because this is obviously allowed, but you'll see like your application category or your reason for the block. It'll show up as like phishing or malware or something along those lines. To wrap this video up, you should have a better idea of how Datadog ingests log data, and by using a pipeline and a grok parsing processor, we can easily extract the data, making it ready for analysis. Integrating Zenarmor with Datadog is just one of the many integrations possible with Datadog, and this should just give you a good starting point to explore the platform further. If you've enjoyed this content, please don't forget to keep the algorithm happy and to like and subscribe to this channel. And also don't forget to share this with your friends. All your support is always appreciated. That's all I have to show you for today. I'll see you all soon.